late to get an annulment. I've tried to tell you that. You're just going to have to stick it out. Okay. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode, 17 of the Bamcast. But we've got a very special episode today where I'm joined by my wife, McKenzie.
Hey, guys.
Who you guys have heard me talk about to everybody a lot. So, well, the funny thing is how many times have you mentioned me on a podcast?
Mention you on a podcast? I've never been on one.
Okay. Well, you could have made one. You could be mentioning me this whole time.
Oh, okay. I'll get right on that.
Yeah.
Then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we got some different topics and stuff that we kind of want to go over. But okay. So one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people ask about or wonder about with us is kind of the story of how we met, which people, if they were at our wedding, they got to hear the whole extended cut version, but most people don't know it. So I want to hear from your perspective. I want you to tell a story, which is one of your biggest strengths, and tell a story of kind of how we met.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make a couple of edits on this. So Baker and I met in college, and we both went to OU. We had the same major, which is kind of funny. Entrepreneurship was really small, and it's grown a lot. But anyways, we met at a party, and I went there with my friend. I didn't know anyone there. She just said, hey, do you want to go to a party? And I was in college, so yeah. And there was this drinking game called Chandeliers or Stack Cup. There's a bunch of names for it, but we kind of went over there, wanted to join. It's kind of like a break the ice when you don't know people. And at first they were playing with Trulies. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but they were playing with something that I could have because just so you guys know, I can't have gluten. I have celiac, which we could get into later. And then someone comes over and just pours beer all over it because they ran out of Trulies. And so I was like, oh, dang it, I can't play anymore. So then I just started walking away, and she didn't want to be there alone. So she tapped the guy next to her, which was Baker, and she was like, can you drink for her? If she has beer, she dies. And I was like, no, it's not that serious. But Baker was like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And so I kind of thought you were cute at the time. And I was like, okay, this cute guy is going to drink for me. Maybe he'll try and talk to me afterwards. So once the game was over, did not look at me once, just walked away. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess that's how it is. So didn't really talk to you since then. We had the same kind of friend group because the party that we went to, mutual friends, and senior year was kind of when we hit it off. We saw each other again at the same friend's house. And then it just kind of like grew from there. And then you moved to Texas for me. So
well, she skipped over a lot of details, so I'm gonna fill in all the gaps. So okay. The other part of that is so that kind of like party happened, and I do remember like all of those things happening. But after, I would say like a few months later, I think it was the same year, was like around Halloween. You had like, I would start to kind of like see you at the gym, but you never really like would talk. Like you'd be with a group of girls that I knew that they would come and talk to us or talk to me, like me and my friends, but you wouldn't like ever. Okay. You would always stay over there and like keep working out.
You gave off douchey vibes though. Okay. So I thought you were a douchebag for sure.
Well, that's probably true. But one thing that was kind of like it was like a near miss type of deal. I threw a big like Halloween party. And I can't remember what year it was, 2019 or 2020. Same year as like we kind of like first met. Mm-hmm. And you and a couple of friends came to the party, but I had actually that exact night met the girl that I dated for a little bit. like that night. And so you got there, and I was kind of like talking to somebody else for a while, and you guys didn't really like stay for that long. And then you guys left, and then I ended up in a relationship. You ended up in a relationship, and 8, 9, 10 months later, I guess we found ourselves in this kind of the same situation of like a couple of parties that we were at. We were both single,
Yeah.
and kind
There
of
were multiple times where we kind of crossed paths. And I mean, it's kind of one of those things where we've talked about it before, where if we would have started talking at that time or after that party or whatnot, like, I don't know if we would have been ready. So it's kind of funny how it all
yeah,
worked out.
yeah. And then we went to we kind of like started to text a little bit. We had met in a couple of parties, like exchanged, like I made you give me your um, like phone number and Snapchat and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, because at first you asked for my Snapchat, and I was really honest with you. I was like, I don't Snapchat.
Yeah, and she doesn't. But then we went to a big group of our friends went to go stay with with one of the people's in the friend group. We went to go stay at their place for OU Texas, which is like a big event for if you go to the University of Oklahoma, like that's just a student thing that you do is go to the OU Texas game. And so we all went down there and stayed down there, and that was the COVID year too. And you actually like I was kind of like, okay, this is if something happens like this weekend, like if I kind of feel like she's interested or whatever, then like we can pursue it. If not, like I'm sure she'll make that obvious too. And you didn't like really like talk to me at all the first like I would say like day or day and a half. And then like the night of the game or the day of the game, you didn't even go to the game. You were studying and stuff. And I was like, this girl's not even like interested in me at all. And so I went with like a couple of the people that went to the game. You had stayed back and studied, and then we were all supposed to go out that night. And so you kind of, for the first time the entire weekend, came up to me and were like, "Hey, are you going to go out?" Like there was two kind of groups forming. One of them was stay near where we were, which was like Frisco, Texas, and go out at like a place where you can go out to a few bars there in Frisco, or go into Dallas and get kind of like right in the thick of it with kind of the party sphere. And so I was kind of like spearheading the stay close. I don't want to wait in lines all night. Like let's kind of like keep it local group. And you were kind of spearheading the let's go to Dallas, let's go party. Like as with senior year, we need to go and like enjoy this. And so you came up to me and started saying like, "Are you gonna come to Dallas with us?" And I was like, "No, I think we're gonna like stay out around Frisco, and like you should come with to Frisco though." But in my back of my head, I'm thinking like, who does this girl think she is? Like she hasn't talked to me all weekend, like literally no interaction at all, and then all of a sudden she thinks she can just like change my plans and make me go to somewhere I don't want to go with her. And so I kind of like stuck to my guns, and I rallied up like most of the people to go to Frisco. Um, and then you would kind of like started to like text me a little bit and be like, "Hey, I really think you should go to Dallas. It's gonna be fun." And then we're all like kind of chilling, and the Dallas people are getting ready so that they can go to Dallas because there's going to be a longer Uber ride and more lines, and so they were going out a little bit earlier. And so we actually like she got ready and she came out. We were on like a patio area. She came out in like this crazy white dress and like started like walking over, and it was in my head it was kind of like this slow motion type of thing of like, oh my, like just first of all just like her in general, but second of all like I kind of realized as this is like playing in slow motion in my head that you were walking to me, and I was like, oh my god, like, I gotta just like, what do I do? And so you came up and you were talking like, you're like, so did you decide to go to Dallas with us? And I had been literally like going speech, like telling everyone, like convincing everybody to go to Frisco. And you came up and asked me, and I was like, yeah, I think it's our senior year. I think we might go to Dallas. We might try to make this happen. Um, and so one of my buddies, Tucker, who I've talked about on the podcast a few times, he was like, why did you like change your mind? You're now all of a sudden you want to go to Dallas. You convinced everyone we're going to Frisco like you wanted. I was like, dude, did you see Kenzie? Like, she looks really good. I was like, I might go to Dallas. Anyways, I had already done such a good job convincing everybody. So we went out to Frisco. Kenzie went out to Dallas and everything. But that was kind of like when I was like, okay, there's at least something there because she was like trying to get me to go out with her. And so I'm interested in this girl. And then randomly you came, whenever we got back to Oklahoma, you came over to study that one night. Do you remember that?
Yes, it was. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And I
What
didn't
was
know
I studying
what, I
for?
didn't
I was
know.
studying for a class that you've already taken.
Yeah.
You're gonna help me.
Mm-hmm.
What was it for?
It was, it was like entrepreneurial finance or something.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And and I don't know, like I didn't deal with things like that really. So like I was like, I don't know anything about this girl. I don't know what like her intentions are. I was like, I'm just gonna be as respectful as possible. I'm not even gonna like
Yeah, we
say
studied downstairs and did not.
in my living room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, I'm not even gonna like, I don't want her to be uncomfortable if I say like, we can just go up to my room. Like I didn't want to get in any situation where you would feel uncomfortable. So I was like, let's just stay down here and study. And so I think you probably thought it was pretty lame because you only stayed for like 30 minutes or something and then just went home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't even remember that. I remember it faintly, so
Yeah.
that's funny.
Anyways, and then you can tell the story of when we were out and it was like my last chance or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you got me all confused on the timeline, but I remember there was one weekend I went home and my mom and I were pretty close. So I always tell my mom about, like the guys that I dated in the past.
All of them.
All of them. But I was telling her about you and she knew about you. And I was like, Mom, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm about to stop trying. Like, he gets one more chance. Like, he's not even flirting back. And come to realize he says I wasn't even flirting when I was texting, but
Yeah.
whatever.
It's really bad, really dry texter, even still.
So I was like, okay, he gets one more chance. And then if not, I'm moving on. I don't care. It's not worth my time. And then sometime after that, we all went out with our group of friends. We went out a lot in college.
Senior year we did.
We did. We had to make up for COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went out with them and we're at a bar and everything. And what did I do? I just grabbed your hand.
Yeah.
And because I think I like saw someone talking to you and I was like, oh, well, I want to be the one talking to him, so I don't know. I like grabbed your hand and like guided you through the bar because it was crowded. And then I think that's just like when.
Yeah, I was kind of like, oh, she is actually interested in me. She is just a really bad texter. That's not just an excuse.
I told you that from the beginning.
Yeah.
You didn't believe me.
I didn't. So, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be continued.
To be continued. But after that, really, the whole story is that, she started to look at jobs. I've always kind of been an entrepreneur, so I could kind of do whatever. I knew that I wanted to be in Dallas within a couple of years, and I told her that. But she was looking at jobs in Oklahoma, as far as I knew, and then she had lined up some job in Dallas, and then before I knew it, like a week later, she is like accepting the job, and I was kind of like, okay, well, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for us? Like, I'll have to figure it out. And so I just luckily enough, like the group of brands that I was running marketing for at the time, they found out that my girlfriend accepted a job in Dallas and they didn't want to lose me. So they instigated a conversation with me and said, hey, if you want to move, we'll make it work. And then they gave me like a pretty decent pay, like a 40% pay bump or something. So I could like live down there or down here.
Well, the cost of living is a lot different here than it is in Norman.
Well, it's supposed to, yeah. Yeah, I went from paying $400 a month for rent to $1,500, like literally more than tripled my cost of living. And then I followed you down here. Really tough first year for both of us being down here with your job and the situation that you were in.
And you were new to the area, so you didn't know anyone else down here other than me and then a few other people.
I didn't know anyone. And I was working remote in a job where I wasn't interacting with a ton of people. I had like one or two contacts at the company that I would talk to like on a daily basis. And so I was very isolated. living by myself, I would see you like once or twice a week. Once a week usually. Like
Yeah.
Friday night, you would get off work super late. You'd come hang out with me, and then we'd see each other like Friday, Saturday, and then you'd go home.
Because I was working 60 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
So when I wasn't working, I was either at home with my family or with you. And that was hard on you because you didn't see anyone.
No, I would see.
Yeah.
I would just see you on the weekends, and then I didn't really know anybody at the gym, but I would go to the gym. That was my only other kind of source of like seeing people.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any friends here, didn't talk to anybody here. I just was very, very isolated. Played a lot of video games. So, but we made it.
Yep.
We made it. Okay. So next, what I kind of have is you mentioned celiac, which I think is kind of a big portion of kind of, we're on 75 hard right now. You guys have heard me talk about it on a ton of episodes. We also have some extra dietary restrictions that mainly you have because of celiac disease. So explain what celiac disease is for people that don't know what that is, because I didn't know what it is when we first met.
Yeah, it's uh, a lot of people don't really understand it fully, because you could be gluten intolerant or gluten sensitive, and then there's celiac.
Mm.
So celiac is a lot more severe than just having gluten intolerance. So from my knowledge, I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything, but what I've been told is that the villi in your intestine, these little like finger looking things, they absorb nutrients from the food. So when you have celiac disease, anything that you have that has wheat, barley, and rye in it can destroy the villi, like kill it off. Um, and so you're not getting any nutrients from your food. You're sluggish. Like there's a lot of symptoms that can go into it, and it's really hard to detect because not everyone will have the same set of symptoms. Because what I have, the symptoms that I was experiencing, is completely different than the symptoms that like our friend Marcus has, and everyone else does. So it took a while for them to figure out that that's what was going on with me. Um, Long story short, it gets triggered by a few things. You could be born with it. A pregnancy. I was not pregnant, by the way. It was, for me, it was triggered by mono, which I got mono in the stupidest way. I didn't even get it from a kiss. So I don't even want to go there. But so I had mono in high school. And then afterwards, I started gaining a lot of weight, super tired, just like kind of feeling depressed and fatigued all the time. And we kept checking my thyroid because we're like, well, we can't figure out what it was. And, that just, I think I checked my thyroid like 4 times, and obviously it wasn't the case. I got so much tests done and went to so many different doctors. And finally, we went to a GI specialist, and he looked at me and he goes, "This is what you have, and we're going to test you for it." And oddly enough, it came back, that in my blood work, it came back that I had celiac. So that was really hard because it took a few years to realize that's what it was. And so, you know, growing up, being able to eat bread and pasta and I don't know.
Yeah, name some more of the foods that are. Because you said wheat, barley, and rye, but I feel like a lot of people even don't know what barley and rye are in, or they know
Right.
kind of like wheat bread. But
Oh, so it's really hard to, I guess the main thing as far as looking if something has gluten is by the ingredients label. And in the ingredients, when it's breaking down, if it has wheat, barley, or rye, it's not gluten free. Another way to see if something is gluten free is a lot of the packaging, or the containers that the food comes in will have a little GF or gluten free logo on it. And that is really safe because I read somewhere, I got to figure out where I read it, but if it has that on there, then for them to be able to put that little stamp or brand saying gluten free means that it's processed in a facility where it actually passes. Because there can be some things where it's gluten free, but they are not able to put that label on it because they don't separate it from other things that they make that could contain gluten. So
But
that would
name some food examples.
okay. So, well, obviously bread, pasta, Pop Tarts, goldfish. What are the things that I missed?
All types of bread, right? Like
Yeah, well,
a lot of candy has gluten,
a lot of candy
or
has
like
gluten.
wheat in the.
Sauces have gluten. Um,
So you're very restricted as far as like the celiac stuff go, but you
right,
also have IBS-C,
right. I
which
do.
hot girls have IBS, so that makes sense.
It does.
We saw a billboard by a place we like to shop, and it said that, and I've never. That's just been like our kind of saying every time we mention it. But IBS-C comes with its own like set of foods that you can't eat.
Yeah, and that is a little bit more of a specific list. There's certain vegetables that I should stay away from, but that part of me, it's really hard when I have celiac, IBS, and lactose intolerance because then I am limited to a very, very short list of food items, and that's not enjoyable. So I have noticed that once I started following a gluten-free diet, that my IBS-C has gotten a little bit better. Um, so that I don't really stick to on a strict kind of like schedule. Like I'll still have Brussels sprouts. I think that's on the list that I should avoid. um, and so I really just stay away from gluten because that is something that can really destroy my body and have like long-term negative effects of it, um, and can cause a whole long list of issues later on.
Yeah. So celiac disease,
Mm-hmm.
IBS-C,
Mm-hmm.
lipodystrophy from me.
And lactose
Both
intolerance.
of us are lactose intolerant. So our kids it's shaping up to be. I've got a history of heart disease in my family and stuff. So it's our kids are shaping up for a really great set of genes
They are.
that we're gonna pass on. It's gonna be sad.
They're gonna
Hopefully
have
it'll
so
all
many
just like,
issues.
yeah, hopefully it'll all just like cancel out maybe,
Maybe.
and they'll just be like perfect.
I'm gonna be so jealous if our kid can have gluten.
I hope they can. I hope they don't have to live like
I
you.
hope they can, but I will be jealous because there's certain things that I miss. When I originally found out, there weren't a lot of gluten-free options. Like restaurants didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of more of like a,
I feel like it's gotten trendy to
yeah.
be gluten free. So a lot of restaurants are trying to do that to keep up with the trends.
Mm-hmm.
And because people are getting more aware of what gluten is and kind of the negative effects that gluten can have, I feel like gluten intolerance cases are like shooting through the. I mean, I've told you about like studies that I've seen where they do like placebo stuff, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, we're going to give you all gluten," when only half of the people have gluten
Right.
intolerance, like real legitimate gluten
Right.
intolerance. But just because people know the side effects of what gluten intolerance would be, almost all of them had the effects of gluten intolerance or symptoms of it, when most of them didn't actually have any gluten intolerance at all. It's just like in their brain, they just
Yeah.
thought.
Well, and there's another part to that. When you aren't gluten intolerant and you follow a gluten-free diet, obviously when you introduce gluten back into your diet, you're going to
It
have
can affect you.
issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they suggest that if you aren't gluten-free, don't eat gluten-free.
Yeah.
You know? And another like misconception about gluten-free is not everything that's gluten-free is healthy for you. It's actually in some cases can be worse because they add sugar and a bunch of other
to make it taste decent.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that I have to really watch out for, is making sure that it's gluten free, but it's also healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been something that's been interesting since like being together, having to kind of navigate that world and make sure and double check with all the waiters and stuff and make sure like you
Yeah, you're
like
you're crazier about it than I am.
well yeah, because I've seen you have I don't even know what they are called, but like the reactions to like
Yeah.
actually getting exposed to gluten accidentally, and it's scary to watch. And so you're very nonchalant about telling them like, "Oh, is that one gluten free?" And they're like, "I think so." And you're like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "No, like she can't. It's not just like a diet choice. Like she can't have gluten. She's got celiac disease. This will really hurt her if she has gluten. So figure out if it has gluten, then come back to us because it's not worth testing it." But anyway,
You're
so
like, I don't want to deal with it later on.
yeah, I don't want to deal with it later on. So now that we've established how screwed up you are, um, one thing that I want to like, I kind of posted something on TikTok the other day about like men these days, the reason that they struggle to like find somebody, or the reason that they um, feel so aimless and like lost and everything is because they're not working on like a goal or a project. Okay, when you and I met, like, or when you and I kind of like started, right?
Hmm.
So we, I at the time was I had accepted a full time like job to go and run marketing for this group of brands that I kind of mentioned earlier. I was training people in the mornings, personal training people in the mornings between like 5 and 7 a.m., then going to my job. I was a full time student still, finishing up college. So I was doing 12 to 15 hours of school. I can't remember which one. Um, and so like they would allow me to like leave during the day to go do my classes on days that I had classes and stuff. And then after I would get done working, I would go back to the gym to either like do my workout and then train more people, or just train more people and kind of like finish up my day or night until like 5 to 7, sometimes 7:30, 8 p.m. And then I would go home after that and go fulfill orders for Ubora, which I had just launched, right? And still made time to hang out with you and grow our new relationship. And
Hmm.
so, but you've told me a bunch of times like that was kind of what attracted you to me. So talk about from a girl's perspective, because it's easy for me as a guy to be like, yeah, go chase things and achieve and like, but what from a female perspective, what it maybe is attractive about that, or like why, what makes that stand out?
So that was a that was kind of an attribute that I was really looking for, and that you definitely checked off the box multiple times. But the reason why that's so attractive to me as a girl is because I know that you're really motivated. So, like, on time, like, I never have to worry about you being able to support us, or me having to support both of us if something were to happen, or if one of us were to lose a job. Because I mean, people go into ruts. And it's not that going into a rut is a terrible thing. I mean, it can happen. But just seeing that that's how you are naturally, and that's what you strive to be, is just, being able to accomplish all these things and to just aim for like higher achievements, is just something that's really attractive, just because you're constantly pushing yourself. But for me, it's nice knowing that, okay, I know I'm going to push myself and I'm going to push my partner. So that's what I want, is that I want someone that can push me too whenever I'm needing it.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I guess like I'll just ask it this way. So if let's like you didn't really know if I was super interested in you, right? Because
Mhm.
I had a lot of stuff going on and all that.
Right.
I didn't know if you were like super interested in me, but that didn't really affect me as far like I was just on my grind. I was just doing my thing. I was doing all like, you know, out 16 hours a day doing stuff. And then I would, if we got the chance, we would hang out after. Right. So
Right.
like, do you think you would have been as interested if you didn't see me doing all these other things and I was just like, you kind of popped up and I just went all in on pursuit of you?
I don't think so. It's hard to answer this question because I don't know if a lot of girls feel the same way that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to me, because that was such a big thing that I was looking for that I didn't see in past relationships, um, like that's what really stood out to me, and that's why I was so attracted to you. Um, and I think that if you just pursued me like straight on a lot faster, that might have kind of like scared me off because, I mean, I was in college. I wasn't looking for anything really at the time. You weren't looking for anything really at the time. Um, so I think how it all like turned out and how we are, I mean, it worked out.
Yeah, and that it was a bunch of our early conversations really were kind of around that. And I told you like this is kind of the lifestyle that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to run my own companies. I'm going to do like it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I'm not really looking for somebody that's going to like want everything to be perfect all the time.
Well, that's the thing too, is like you've talked about it on another podcast, and I'm blanking on who you're talking about it with, but you mentioned that you got to be like you can't look for someone when you're I'm butchering this, but um,
Just so that
kind of
you
like you
remember.
gotta work on yourself before you start looking for someone else to compliment you. So like otherwise, where you are right now, that's kind of like the level that you both become. So, kind of like knowing that you were hitting all these achievements, that's the path that I was going for is, I had graduation in mind. I was applying for jobs. I have all these goals and dreams. And so like that's where we had very similar mindsets on that because of entrepreneurship and everything that goes along with that. But I don't even know where I was going with
No, I just
that.
think that I think it is important to kind of like in those early conversations tell somebody kind of like what you're shooting for. It wasn't like how can we make our lives work for each other, especially early on. It was kind of
Yeah.
like this is my goal, this is what I'm pursuing. Does that like align with you? Does that kind of fit? And then come to find out your mom's a personal trainer,
Mm-hmm.
which I was a personal trainer. She competed before. I competed before. So you had like a baseline understanding of physically what I was going to put myself through and what type of that like lifestyle looks like behind the scenes. Your
Mm-hmm.
dad's an entrepreneur, right? So like you guys have seen highs and lows and trials and tribulations and things like that. And so you had been exposed to that so it was kind of like perfect because you understood without me just being like, hey, it's going to be tough, right? Or this is what life's going to look like. And then you just kind of being like, okay. And then not really understanding it just because I'm just speaking it at you.
Mm-hmm.
You'd kind of been through versions of that as a kid, right?
Right.
But
Growing up.
you had kind of seen the behind the scenes of those lifestyles, and so you knew at least baseline what to expect.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that was that was important. Um, and something that I thought was pretty crazy was that your parents kind of had a combination of both the things that I had history in. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think that early conversation is super important, and I do think for men in general, like the reason that I felt confident in if this works out, then great. If not, like I'm pursuing my stuff is because I was pursuing my stuff.
Right.
Like if I had put all my eggs in the basket of I got to get this girl to fall in love with me and marry me and not leave me and take care. Like
Well,
if
then
I
it's
had
like, what do you have going for afterwards?
exactly like you, if you tie your if I would have tied my identity into just like I'm pursuing this girl, like I'm gonna be her boyfriend, like that's who I'm gonna be, then I wouldn't have been able to do much for you except for just be like a punching bag and be like all the different like but you would have to be everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you saw that I was going to pursue my stuff no matter what. And it was kind of like, I'm on this path. I'm telling you I'm on this path and I'm going to pursue these things. And then you decided like you liked my path and everything I was on. You wanted to come line up side by side with me and then we can go towards these goals kind of together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the important things that we did early on. That I think a lot of people try to skip over. They try to just like find the person first and then build the life with the person instead of what's the life that I'm aiming for, what's the goal, what's the mission, and the person
they
can
fit
join me
it?
on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember having those conversations.
Mm-hmm. So I think that was kind of like an important point that I wanted to talk about since I had posted that the other day. But okay, next, first year of marriage, right? So we're what 8 months in, 9 months in, maybe 8.
8?
Yeah, 8.
Okay.
Because March, April, May, June. So yeah, we've got 4 months left until 1 year. So
Wow.
yeah, it's going by fast. But highs, lows. What talk about kind of like marriage so far? That was one of the questions we got on Instagram too when prepping for the episode.
What was this exact question?
The exact question was, let me make sure volume doesn't go off. The exact question was biggest thing you guys have overcome / learned together since marriage. Actually, another one that was hardest thing about marriage.
So we actually went more traditional. We didn't live together before we were married. And so when people would find out about that, they'd be like, well, that's going to be really hard. That's going to be different. When you guys start living together, you're going to notice a lot of things that you don't like about each other. Um, for us, that actually hasn't been that difficult. I mean, there's some things that I'm sure what I do kind of bug you or whatnot, and vice versa, but not enough to be like, "God, this is awful."
Yeah.
I love living with you, and I love seeing you every day and waking up next to you and going to sleep next to you. So that actually has been super fun
I agree.
and pretty easy. The hardest thing I think is the finances. And we got a bunch of like different versions on how you should put your money together, how you should keep it separate, putting it together and separate. And I was just like, okay, like first off, what are our goals? Um, and how do we feel about money? I'm very like doomsday, what if
Conservative.
yes, conservative. I'm very conservative. So it's just like being prepared for the worst case scenario, making sure that we have enough worst case. And you're always like, there's always more to make. We'll be okay. Not going to worry. So having those two different mindsets, it has been a challenge for sure. Um, I would say we're still learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that that's probably the main arguments that we have would be around finances.
Yeah.
But we are saving in a lot of different ways. So a lot of the money that we're earning is not being used for us. Like it's being saved for, a house or travel in the future, just kind of like other expenses that we don't get to enjoy right then and there. So it's just kind of like we see it come in and we see it go out.
Yeah. Yeah. So with and maybe this kind of like conversation can kind of help people. But it is like a really weird thing whenever you do. Again, we took the perspective of we're becoming one, so our everything needs to be one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it gets really weird. Like there's people that we follow on like Venmo that are husband and wife that are like Venmoing each other back and forth for like gas and groceries and stuff. And it's like I think it gets really weird when you have to like ask your significant other period, but like your spouse to pay you back for something. I think that just gets in a really weird spot. Now, to each their own. If that works best for some people, maybe it does. But we decided to put everything together.
Well, because our view is when you're married, you become one. So why would you keep it separate if you're not one person?
Mm-hmm.
So the way that it has been working for us, and obviously it's very new still, and we will probably get some comments arguing otherwise, but is that we all everything is joint, and then you have your different savings accounts, checking account for different purposes, but the reason why we have it all together is because what if something were to happen to one of us where we have to support each other? Or what if like you start a new venture and we have to pool funds for it? Like I want to be able, like I want us to be doing everything together,
When
like
it just
because
gets
we're
weird,
one.
if there's an income difference, which
Right.
I've got multiple streams of income and everything, but it was like if it was separate, then like how do you even make sure that that's equitable? Like you're only
Yeah.
going to be able to live and buy stuff and spend and whatever off of only your income, whereas if the other person has more income, then they get to spend and live in like a different lifestyle and within the same
Right.
household, within the same
But
marriage.
but let's say like yes, one person makes more than the other. That doesn't mean the other is working just as hard.
No,
You
yeah.
know, and doing other things like kind of like to help with that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like things around the house. I mean, you have no idea in it. How do you turn that into like a monetary value to
Mm-hmm.
where it kind of like justifies? It just makes it super
It just gets
complicated.
weird because then the person that is earning differently is like sending money to the other person to make it equal, and then at that point it's just like, anyways,
Yeah.
we're getting it off of kind of like a tangent, but essentially what we did and how we've done it is everything goes into one pot, and then we have it immediately on, like, when I pay myself from the businesses and when you get paid from your job and everything. It same day it goes out into all the different places that we want it to go out into. So we're acting like, or saving pretty aggressively for like an eventual house down payment. Now we don't know if we're going to use it for that. We're just kind of like saying that and putting it pretty aggressively into there. But we've also got like an account that we're trying to build up for emergencies and for like if something were to go crazy, right, then we have like a built up emergency fund that we can kind of rely on.
Like a car were to break down or
Yeah.
something.
And then a spending account where we can like like if we need to travel or want to travel or we get an opportunity to do something, maybe even do like an investment or something later on, then like that spending account can kind of be like extra money that it's not like we don't have to use, like have to rely on it, but it's there, like if we get an
For
opportunity.
enjoyment,
Yes.
entertainment. Yeah.
And then we've got retirement stuff and stocks and things like that, but we try to be very very aggressive with putting things back and making sure that it feels like we're a little bit more restricted than we really are as far as like income, um, but it'll just pay off that much more because it's all going to compound, it's all going to grow, and it'll keep it to where we don't have access to spend as much as we might want to sometimes.
Right. And the thing that like makes sense to me is because we're saving so much, like when we start to have kids or have those extra expenses, we can ease back on the savings to where it won't be so much of a difference from where we're living or how we're living right now.
Yep.
So
For sure. So yeah, that's definitely been something that since the beginning it has been a little bit, um, especially at the very beginning when we first combined everything, it was kind of weird because, and I feel like you still kind of ask me some stuff, which is cute, but it's like you kind of feel like now, even though it's not this way, you kind of feel like you have to ask the other person, which you should out of out of courtesy.
I was like, you're looking
Yeah.
at me. I don't know.
Out of courtesy, you probably should ask the other person, but like random weird, like grabbing an energy drink on the way home, don't necessarily have to have, right? But it's like you're kind of spending the other person's money a little bit, so it's like, do I ask permission for this, or do you have a rule of like everything over $100 you got to ask, or like those were some weird things that we kind of felt out at the beginning, but that stuff kind of naturally kind of settles where.
Yeah, I think it's just something where it's just like obviously if the other person had gotten it and you would be upset, then yeah, you should probably talk to them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, talking about things that have been tough in marriage, I've got a little segment that I want to introduce here.
Oh no.
So I've been recording. Really, this is over the last like 48 hours, not even
Oh my
like
God.
36 hours. Things I got yelled at for this week. Okay, now
Baker, I have not been in a good
keep
mood.
in mind we're on 75 hard. She's dieting pretty aggressively.
I am.
Which I'm proud of her for. But these are some things that I have gotten in trouble for that I've remembered to write down, and I started doing this yesterday morning. So this is all from the last 48 hours.
You're going to make everyone hate me.
No, this is the truth. This is the cold hard truth. Things I got yelled at for this weekend. Okay, so it's Saturday right now. This is from Friday to today so far. Having the hiccups.
Oh my God, I'm crying.
Driving too slow. Driving too fast. Not switching lanes. Trying to switch lanes. Not making it through the door before it closed on me when she didn't hold it. This morning, waiting on her. Not doing stuff that I should know to be doing while waiting on her. That's what I've recorded so far over the past since last night. Whenever you yelled at me for having the hiccups, I was like, you know what, that would be a fun little segment for the podcast. So I just started recording from yesterday. That's what I've got so far. So what do you have to say for yourself?
Don't be so annoying.
Okay. What else do you have to say for yourself?
I think I apologized a few times after that.
She did.
I did apologize this morning. Listen, I can be a little grouchy right now.
You can.
And especially if I haven't had food in my system. Very grouchy.
Mm-hmm. So the reason you don't have a lot of food in your system, the reason that you're a little bit grouchier, we're doing 75 hard for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys have seen the video, it's a few videos back on YouTube, but it is we posted like a vlog from like day 14 or something like that. I have like 3 vlogs I'm supposed to post that I have been lazy on editing. But we did it last year together, and we lived separately last year because we weren't married yet, but we got to do like workouts and stuff like that on the weekend together. Talk about kind of the same stuff that we talked about in that YouTube video, maybe your experience last year doing it more singular,
Okay.
and then
as a couple.
Yeah.
Okay. So last year was the first time. It was a little bit harder because we didn't know what to expect going into it. Like it wasn't something that I've experienced before. So it was definitely a challenge, but I was a little bit more motivated because we were getting married, and I was like, I need to kick it into gear. I have so much I have to plan for, and like try and get in, like really good shape that I want to look like I wanted to look really good on our wedding day. Because those are photos that you're going to have forever. Mm-hmm. So that was important to me. And being on it alone was a little bit challenging. I didn't, like you had Tucker because you lived with him. I just had my parents because I lived at home to save up. And they weren't doing it. But I will shout out my mom. She is literally a godsend because the time last year there was a freeze. And I think it was almost a week long.
Yeah.
But everything was iced over. Like you could not leave your house. It was ice. And she was out there doing the workout, shuffling in the grass with me for 45 minutes. So she was a trooper. I love her for that. But yeah, if I had to do it again this time around on my own, it would have been a little bit harder because of, not saying I'm not as motivated, but because I didn't have that end goal to push me other than just, feeling better.
Yeah.
It would have been a little bit more challenging because of that.
For sure. So, as of right now, we're on day 62.
I don't even know.
61, I think.
I try not to keep track of it because then it makes me sad. But now it's so close that I'm just counting down.
Yeah, so we got exactly 2 weeks left as of right now.
Yep.
So far, how do you feel like it's been this year doing it as a married couple?
It's been nice. It's been really nice. I mean, obviously, there's going to be days that you have a harder time or days that I have a harder time. I mean, I've had to lean on you a few times. You've had to push my butt out the door to do a workout outside and basically drag me for 45 minutes. Yeah. So
there was one in particular where you were like crying the whole time, and I was like holding you during our walk.
Oh, that was a pretty bad day. But no, it's been really enjoyable and nice kind of having that other person that you live with do it with you, because then it makes everything that you have to do when you don't want to do it so much better. Mm-hmm. And just like you have a lot more fun with it too. So
yeah. What do you, so for people that are thinking about doing, like, one thing that we talked about in the YouTube video that I think can be helpful is if you're wanting to do something like this, or you feel like you and your partner need to do something like this, but the partner isn't necessarily maybe thinking that way, or might not, like, you don't know how to approach them with the idea without it sounding like you need to lose weight. You know what I mean? Like, how do you approach that? And what do you think the benefits are if you're in a couple of doing it like together at the same time, at least, even if you do live separately, versus just one person doing it?
Okay, so there were a lot of questions in that question.
Okay, start with, how would you approach your partner?
Well, are you
How
wanting
should
to do
you?
it too? Or are you wanting your partner to just do it?
So my question was, if you feel like it's something that you and your partner could benefit from,
Mm-hmm.
but they might not be thinking about that, or you don't know how they're going to feel about it. Maybe they don't even know what 75 hard is. How would you approach that person?
I would present it as more of an opportunity for them to decide. I wouldn't say it as like, and I think I answered this question on our last YouTube video, but um, I would make it more of kind of like an opportunity or positive approach to this challenge, because a lot of people do take it in as a weight loss challenge when it's really not supposed to. It's more of a mental toughness challenge anyways. You obviously will most likely lose weight just because you're working out twice a day, eating a lot healthier than you probably would have, so that's just kind of like the effect of it. And so just taking it in a way, or approaching it as just a mental toughness challenge, saying, hey, let's try this out, see if this kind of kicks our butt into gear, and to kind of gear towards the path of where we're actually wanting to be on and where we desire to be on. And it's only 75 days, so it's not a year long thing. It's not something that this is the new diet, this is what's going to be stuck to forever. But let's do this for 75 days, and by 75th day, like, see where we're at, see how we feel, what we want to do afterwards, and just like kind of like see that change and challenge that you go through together. So that's kind of how I would approach it.
Yeah, I like that. And you had some really good stuff on the YouTube video about, if one partner's doing it and the other partner's not, how do you balance that? Because you talked about back whenever I used to do.
The cuts. Yeah, that is very challenging. I will say that if one partner is doing 75 hard and the other one is not and does not know what it all entails, that will be very, very difficult. Because I mean, I will admit, Baker's been on a cut and I was not supportive. I didn't know I wasn't being supportive at the time, but obviously, knowing what I know now, I know that. So it's because you're in 75 hard, you're following a strict diet, you have to hit all these goals. And if you don't, you fail. You have to start over. You don't get to do the next day and keep going. Like, you start back at day one. And that is very, very difficult, especially if you do fail. And, like, let's say your partner, and most of the time they don't mean, but like, they wanted to go out to dinner, or why do you have to do this workout, let's go do this. um, and so that can have a really huge impact on just like your mental health, but also you just kind of, to me, the best way is if you guys both do it, or the other partner at least understands the ins and outs of it, because you're going to need to be, if you are not the one doing it, you've got to help support them. um, because this isn't like an easy challenge at all if you do it the right way. So whether you choose to do it with your partner or choose not to do it, you should at least know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the tough part to balance is if you're not doing it together, then one person will either get jealous of the results,
Right.
jealous of them pushing themselves, wish that they had the discipline, or wish that they had the, whatever, or they'll get upset because maybe we're not going on dates enough, right? Like I just want you to let loose. Like come eat some snacks with me or eat some dessert or let's have some popcorn or go to a movie. Like it's this, all these situations that would
Mm-hmm.
typically not be any type of an issue inside of a relationship that would actually be really healthy to go do these things together, end up being a whole kind of like different event whenever one person can't partake or can't
Yeah.
partake to us the same level.
Well, and that there's like a perfect example that like, and this was when you were actually going through a cut, and you lived in the colony, right? Um, so you're going through a cut at the time. I was not. And you were like seeing results, really excited, showing me all this stuff. And just like with me, like a history of like body dysmorphia and stuff like that, that was actually putting me in a worse spot because I was seeing all the improvements and excitement that you were experiencing, but I was not doing the same. I was not working on myself. And so then I just kind of like went into a spiral of like negative thoughts
Mm-hmm.
when I should not go there. you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, this was something that you were doing. So
Yeah,
yeah, definitely being on the same page with your partner can definitely help you.
navigate it better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, it is possible for one person to be doing it, one person to not, but
yeah,
it just will be easier to understand each other and be,
a lot easier
yeah,
and less arguments.
yeah. So with 75 hard and it ending and this kind of being the second go round of it ending, how are you tackling like day 76 plus this year differently than you did last year?
So this year, I'm going to do a few things differently. I'm not gonna. I hope not to just fall off because last year I day 76 ate normal or back to what I was used to eating. Not working out as much, but I also was planning for the wedding, so I just kind of changed all the time I spent on 75 hard to make up for the wedding planning. So this year, because I'm not doing that, I know I can kind of like put more things into place. I'm still going to keep up the workouts. I'm not going to do 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
We really do need to have rest days. So just having kind of like a set schedule is what I plan to do, and sticking to those schedules. So I'm still working on it right now, but there's going to be certain days of the week that I do have the rest day or
Mm-hmm.
active rest day. And that will be like, I know one of them is going to be a Sunday. So just having like a drawn out plan for that. And then as far as eating, um, I think I may do kind of more of the 80-20 style. Um, but during the week, it's a lot easier to meal prep. The weekends are going to be a little bit more flexible. But just having like in your notes or just written down the macros of the meal or just some meal ideas to where I just don't grab Chick-fil-A on the way home or just like go in the pantry and snack on everything. Just having being able to in times like that have kind of like a plan in place is really going to help me not just fall off when 75 hard is over.
Mm-hmm.
What's another thing? I do want to try and drink a gallon of water still. Um, we'll see if I keep that up.
Yeah. No, I think that I think you're spot on. And we've talked about with like the first time that you complete something like 75 hard or for me it was the first my real first cut at all. I did, a prep for my competition and you don't realize how unhealthy you're taking the whole process during it
Mm-hmm.
because you are seeing all these results and it's all awesome. But typically what it looks like is people are saving a bunch of like cookie pictures, right? And like saving a bunch of recipes of stuff that they want to make afterwards and their entire like For You page or their entire, Instagram. I forget what the page is called on Instagram, but like on the search bar, when you go to that and it's all like a lot of people's will be all like pictures of cake and cookies and
Mm-hmm.
and different like sweets and stuff. And it's because that's what they just can't stop thinking about like that day 76 or the end of it to when they can finally go like indulge again. They're making a bucket list of things that they want to
That was me last year. I had
Yeah.
a bunk cake in the fridge 2 days before.
It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody during your first kind of go round, and then you realize, because you usually people rebound is what it's called, hard after right when they're done dieting, and they'll put a lot of water weight and different things back on, and hours after my show, and it's just super unhealthy, and you just can't stop. Like your hormones, even inside of you, are like, okay, he's been starving forever. We need to shut off his like feelings of um, fullness,
Right.
essentially, with your leptin and your ghrelin.
Yeah.
It'll turn off your body's ability to feel full because it knows that there's a flood of stuff coming in, and it doesn't know when you're going to get calories and stuff again. So it's just like, let's just have him or her eat as much as possible and get in as much as possible so we can hold on to this and sustain them longer. And so it's not even your own fault. It's a lot of just stuff that's going on inside of your body and your head, and your brain even is tricking you into thinking like you need to continue to indulge because you've been so good for so long, and all sorts of things. So you're fighting an uphill battle the first time you do it. Now, what that does for you too is at the end of it, whenever you do rebound or you do negative things start to happen again, you're kind of like, ugh, like you kind of feel gross again. And you're like, I really liked how I used to feel. Like I used to feel like a machine.
Right.
I used to like, my stomach felt so much flatter. I wasn't bloated all the time. I didn't
Wasn't
have
tired.
I didn't wake up all puffy and like stuff like that. Um, and so you kind of like start to feel like I wish I would go back to that, but usually people continue to go on down that road, right? And then the next time they do it again and they start to feel like the machine again, and they start to feel like the healthiness and all the things that they previously remember, and they're like, this is what I was missing. Like I really like this. And so each time that you do something like this, it gets a little bit easier to stay in a similar mindset because you realize the contrast, having gone through it a few different times, of feeling so shitty doing all that other stuff versus feeling so good not doing all that other stuff. And kind of like now I've been through so many iterations of cuts and 75 hard twice, um and competing and really really aggressive stuff, and now it's kind of like my only thing that I have on my list is I just want to be able to go to dinner and not bring a food scale with you. Like that's
that would be nice.
Yeah, like we're gonna do that tonight. But we're bringing a food scale tonight. Is what I'm saying. But that's kind of how I feel. Is like even before 75 hard, what was I eating? I was still eating. We got rice in the rice cooker right over there. I was still eating chicken and rice a couple times a day.
You're eating pretty much the same thing.
Same thing. It's just because I know how my body feels when I'm eating those certain things, and I know how I look when I'm eating those certain things, and it's just kind of at this
You're
point.
also very picky.
I'm very picky.
You eat like one thing.
You like one thing, yes. But previously it would be like me trying to talk myself into eating out all the time and getting ice cream and you deserve this and stuff like it. It gets easier and easier. What I'm trying to say is it gets easier and easier the more times you put yourself through something like this. So I think it's going to be a lot easier for you to continue on this time.
Well, I'm glad because I did drop off very hard after it. And
everybody
I
did.
remember like, oh gosh, it was very soon after, and I was like, I gained it all back bigger. I was like, what did I do for 75 days? It's all back.
Yeah.
What do you plan to keep after 75?
For me, I do think it's more building in more of a sustainable kind of. I got to figure out a goal. It's kind of what I figured out by myself. Like I got to figure out if I'm going to get shredded for the summer, and that's like one of my goals, or if I'm going to like start to bulk, or if I'm going to set some strength goals or body fat. Like I got to have something because last year we finished it and it was like, yeah, I wanted to look good for the wedding, so I got diced for the wedding, and then after that, I feel like I had no motivation for the next like 8 months. Or 6 months, whatever it was, until like New Year's when we started again. So I got to have some sort of a goal, or else I'll fall out of love with training and I won't be super happy. So figuring out a goal, honestly, and I think it is going to be getting in shape for whatever trip we end up taking for my birthday, and continuing to kind of like slowly lean out. Like I'm in a place where it's good right now. I'm eating like 2,700 calories and I'm getting leaner by the day or by the week, and it's going really slow, which is great because I've learned to love slow cuts because then you look so much better, you hold on to so much more energy, you feel so much more full, and you hold on to a lot more muscle as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've taken really aggressive cuts where it's like I'm going to get as diced as I can in 12 weeks, and I get super small, and your muscles have nothing left in them, and your strength is terrible, and you feel shitty all the time.
Right.
So I'm going to try to do that. I think get in shape for the summer, and then I'm going to probably try to take like a good year after, year to even maybe 18 months or 2 years, and just like slowly build. Because I just needed, I haven't done that in a long time since I started lifting pretty much. So
We look good.
thank you. Appreciate it. You look good. Okay. So with 75 Hard, one thing that you've been doing and doing a really great job of is you've been sharing it on social media.
Oh gosh.
So talk about becoming an influencer.
My 100 followers.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you started with 80.
I know, it's really growing so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely annoying some days because I'm doing daily vlogs, which I need to be better about posting them. I have them all recorded. There's so many videos in my camera roll. It's ridiculous. But I'm like, gosh, I'm like 30 days behind the actual day that we're on TikTok. But it's been really fun, actually. Once I have them made and just kind of making it and everything. Yes, it can be annoying some days. Like
Yep.
some days I am having a hard day on 75 Hard and having to just record or make sure I get something when I really don't want to do anything has been a challenge. But I think after 75 Hard, I'm going to try and keep up with it just because it's been really fun and just seeing where it takes me. If it doesn't go anywhere, then that's fine. But it's more for my enjoyment rather than anyone else's.
Yeah.
So
You've done a great job with this so far. It's been cool to kind of see that, like
my little videos.
Yeah, it's been cool to see you sticking with it and putting in a lot of work and time and effort and concentration into just like doing that at a high level. And I mean, I know you're a ways behind kind of where we're at right now, as far as like, if you look on her TikTok, it's like day
35 was the last day that I posted.
Yeah, so you've got
when you post
26
this,
days behind where we're at right now.
Yes, I'm gonna do better. I'll catch up.
So, but I think it's got a lot of potential and it can do some cool things for you. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see.
Some vlogs are better than others. So if you see one that isn't, I guess that.
Oh my gosh, they're all awesome. She's super cute. But one thing that I wanted to ask you is what do you want to get into posting after 75 Hard, and are you gonna ever branch out into other mediums?
Fun. Okay. Yes. I just want to post more of me. I want to post more of me and what I like to do. So obviously, you've already known I have celiac. I eat gluten-free. So I just want to share more gluten-free hacks, gluten-free recipes, things like that. Eating healthy on a gluten-free diet. I want to share our travel trips. I want to share shopping. I love shopping. Mm-hmm. I know so many places like hidden gems where you can get good deals and you don't find it in the typical store. So if Baker lets me, I'll spend some more money and we can do some opening some packages. Mm-hmm. And then just more of us. I don't know. Just kind of like letting people see kind of just a little bit of you and me and how we live and just life, I guess. And some workout videos.
We got a few trips planned for this year.
We do, and I want to have more.
Yeah. So we did. We've already been to Vegas. We were out in Vegas for a few days, which that's the vlog that I'm going to try to post this week. We were there for 3 days, and we stayed on 75 Hard all 3 days.
That was hard. That was difficult.
Then we went to Houston the next weekend. Also difficult, but fun. And then we're going to Orlando, Florida, early April. So in like 30 days. And then after that, we're going to Nashville for your birthday. And then as of right now, the only other thing that we have is some sort of a trip for my birthday in July.
Yes, so that location's to be determined, but we have the dates picked. So we know that we're going on a trip. We just don't know where.
Yeah. So it's gonna be fun year of travel.
And hopefully more. I want to take like a Christmas trip or New Year's or something.
It'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have anything else? I didn't really have anything else. I don't think.
You don't have anything else?
I didn't have anything else noted.
Oh, I think that's it then.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed something like this. We do actually plan at the end of 75 Hard to try and do some sort of an episode like recapping everything. So going a little bit deeper into the trials and tribulations of that, kind of what we experienced and how it feels to just finish again. And we talked about maybe even incorporating some alcohol into that episode since we'll be such lightweights by then. So that'll be fun. But and that'll be a few weeks or less than 2 weeks, I guess, from when this episode comes out. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you. We appreciate you. Follow Kenzie on TikTok. I'll link all of our stuff down below. And hopefully she'll start posting on Instagram as well. I think you should.
That's something that I need to work on.
Yeah. So
one social media at a time.
Yeah, one at a time. She'll take over that one and then move on. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you are watching on any type of audio platform, make sure that you follow the show and leave a review if you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, then make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes that we've got coming up. But appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Sweet.
How do I turn this off?
We'll turn it off in a second. Good job.
Thank you. I did good?
Yes, you did a good job.
Did I get a prize?
What do you want your prize to be? Huh?
How do I turn this off?
What do you want your prize to be?
Shopping.
Oh, I gotta pee so bad.
Oh, me too.